The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Michelle LeBlanc and I will be your moderator for today's webcast presentation hosted by IAR, the Institute for International Research. IAR is the world's largest producer of educational conferences. As a reminder, this conference is being recorded and all participants are in listen-only mode. IAR provides this webcast as one of many educational programs. We invite you to participate in our ongoing series of free webinars, which will help you gain the greatest return on your marketing investments, whether it's in marketing research, customer experience, advertising, promotions, or other key areas of marketing. You can join us each week for highly informative, highly relevant presentations by today's marketing thought leaders. For a list of topics, visit iarusa.com/seminars. Before we get started, I always like to answer this commonly asked question. Will I be able to view an archive of this webcast? The answer to this question is yes. As an attendee, you'll receive a follow-up email with a link to the webcast recording on our website. Today's presentation will be interactive and we encourage you to participate. There will be a live Q&A session at the end of the event. Anytime during the presentation, you can simply type your questions in the text box in the corner of your screen and hit submit. Your questions will be viewed by myself and the presenter and placed in the queue. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce today's presentation entitled Choosing a Name with Confidence Using New Research Techniques. Our thought leader for today is Brendan Light, SVP Research and Development, BuzzBack Market Research. Brendan has been leading research development and best practices for BuzzBack with recent recognition by the Advertising Research Foundation as a Great Mind Winner for Innovation. In addition to continually improving the quality of the quantitative and qualitative methodologies and analytics of BuzzBack's research offerings, he pioneered BuzzBack's award-winning and patent-pending e-collage and verbatim viewer technology, and leads a broad team of future development and research strategy for BuzzBack. He continues to focus on leveraging the transformative powers of the Internet to evolve respondent engagement, operational efficiency, and visualization of analytics and research. He has over 15 years of client and research supplier-side experience, having also served as research director for the Gray Interactive and as the global director of Ipsos ASI Interactive. With that, Brendan, why don't you take it from here?
Thank you very much. As stated, the name of our presentation is Choosing a Name with Confidence. We have definitely noticed over the past few years an increase from our clients who are much more concerned about the role of the right name, the best name for their brands and products. And so we thought it would be valuable to share with people the approaches we're taking to try and uncover some unique insights around names and how they relate to products and categories. Oops. So we have, through the work we have done over the last 10 years and also just talking with our clients, we've generally settled on the elements that make for a really great name. Most of these, fortunately, we can cover in a pretty efficient research study. The two that can be a challenge to singularly address through research are the bottom two, being globally acceptable and protected or protectable. There is a certain amount that we can cover in research on those, but really all the other ones we can pretty strongly address through our research techniques. Your name has a lot of power on its own, and there's even more power in a name when you are combining it with your other marketing elements. Oftentimes, a consumer will only see your name in the store, on shelf, and won't necessarily have any external collateral marketing support behind it. So a name on its own needs to be powerful, but it also needs to work in conjunction with the rest of the marketing efforts that you're doing. You need to have some synergy there. The right name will use that power for you, but the wrong name can actually use that power against you by creating confusion with consumers. Like all of development, naming goes through a development process, often a development cycle, and there's iterations within this. And depending on where you are at in naming development, there are different measures and different techniques that are going to help you get to the next stage and be sure you're entering the next stage with as much information and insight as possible. We don't have enough time to cover what we do in all of these stages, so we thought we would highlight just one stage today, and that is around name imagery and communications. Really trying to understand what is going on in a consumer's mind when they are seeing your name for your product, and how does that relate to your category, and how does it relate to your intended positioning for your product. To that end, we think it's very important to get beyond simply traditional key metrics. Key metrics do a great job of telling you what's going on, but they don't do a really great job of telling you the how or the why behind what is going on. And this is really crucial because we regularly see parity amongst any kind of stimulus. If it's a name or if it's a concept idea or packaging, key metrics all too frequently come up showing us that ideas are coming out at parity. And that makes sense because we're bringing a lot of good experience to bear when we're testing things. But what we really want to do is be able to tease apart when we're seeing that parity, how can we better understand the right direction to move forward with. Especially if you're in this earlier stage of name development, it's very likely you're going to continue to be developing new names. You're not at the point yet you're trying to pick your final winners. So understanding what's going on amongst those seemingly similar scoring names will really help you be much more informed moving forward. If you have a product like Raisin Bran and you're really committed to having a very literal description of your product, key metrics can carry a lot of the weight in terms of your assessment. But if you're committed to having something a little bit more creative in your naming, it's all the more important to understand the imagery associated with that name. There's a lot of linguistic approaches that a lot of really great naming companies will take to create an appropriate and strong name for you. There's a lot of techniques that we can see. A lot of these brand names here come from abbreviations. They're based on locations. They can be acronyms. They can come from a foreign language. They can have Greek or Latin roots. There's a lot of different approaches, but at the end of the day, you're generally introducing a new word into the English language. It's one that does not exist. And that's going to be inevitable for products because there's only so many words that are available to us. So as we tend to get creative with those names, we want to understand what are they saying to people. I apologize for the siren in the background. It's the woes of working from New York City. However, so in speaking of sounds, I wanted to take an approach within this study to take an angle of trying to understand not just those linguistic approaches into how they affect a name, but what about the actual sound of a name? How does the sound impact what people visualize? There was actually a study done about a year ago called The Sound of Brands that was really interesting. It was in the Journal of Marketing that really affirmed the notion that the actual sound does impact how we perceive a name, and that's independent of the meaning of the name. It's just the sound of it. A little bit of background then on this is the approach that we're taking with this in this study is the Bubakiki effect, which is a really interesting idea that goes back about 90 years, where if we introduce to people, and it's pretty much regardless of culture, it's been done around the world, even in isolated populations, that if you ask people which of these shapes is Buba and which of these is Kiki, there's generally between 95 and 98% agreement of which of these shapes is Buba and which is Kiki. And it speaks to something really deep-seated in our brain in terms of how we process sounds. That it's most commonly known by the Buba Kiki name, but originally it was done by using the names Tikit and Baluba. That was back in the 20s. More recently, within the last couple of years, it was done using the names Tikit and Alumo. So we thought it would be interesting to see what these names would do in relation to some specific product categories what kind of an effect would these names have on it?